Controlling the narrative. How much of an influence do the orbiting planets and luminaries have on human consciousness? It is well understood in the field of astrology that the moon, being the fastest and closest of all celestial bodies, has an influence over a person's mood. The other planets also contribute their unique characteristics on our perception of reality as they gracefully transit around the earth. As we move away from the Piscean age, Saturn, the ruling planet of the New Age, should become one of the main overriding drivers influencing our collective perception of this material reality. However, the outer planets, which are not visible to the naked eye, predominantly influence humanity through the subconscious and our connection to the spirit realm. As the first half of the New Age of Aquarius has shared rulership with Uranus, a planet of rebellion, revolution, new technology, and independent thought, Saturn's material influence of control, order, and restrictions will be challenged by the collective human spirit to be free from oppressive and excessive rules and regulations. Those in positions of authority generally lean towards a satanic disposition in order to keep control over those they rule over, and in order to push ahead with any future plans for consolidation of power under a single governing system, they must control any official narrative concerning world events. Any contrary opinion opposing the establishment's official narrative is undermined through armies of agents censoring anything which could distract people from the official position. Your political representatives are basically using your tax money to keep you quiet and in line while they expand their own power base. It has now come to light that the British Army's 77th Brigade was given the task of monitoring social media discourse during the COVID-19 pandemic and to flag any post which they considered to be disinformation, i.e., anything which did not support the government's official narrative concerning the matter. Although the principles and objectives behind the world's human rights charter stipulate that we as people have a human right to freedom of expression. However, our political classes, although signatories of this charter, covertly act otherwise, while their public relations operatives give the impression that they regard freedom of expression as of primary importance. Behind the scenes, they actively work to undermine anyone opposing their official narrative. While democracy as a basic governing concept offers the illusion of choice, fairness, and liberty, representing the wishes and aspirations of the majority, in practice, most modern democracies are easily compromised by wealthy interests seeking to expand their power base while appearing to be philanthropic and benevolent to the masses. Because Western democracies are easily influenced by wealthy interests. Those with the money can gain the most benefit by controlling most of the levers of power. However, due to Uranus's present subconscious influence towards independence, offering many an emotional desire to break free from the restrictions imposed upon them by any form of restrictive control system, many sovereign nations are beginning to sense an element of manipulation concerning the Western democratic process. As a consequence, more countries are beginning to move towards strong right-wing leadership as a way to prevent moneyed interests compromising their political process. Democracy was once referred to as the collective wisdom of individual ignorance. Due to the inability of the masses to become adequately informed on the various issues of the day, and those who control the flow of information control the narrative. Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. It is in vain to say that democracy is less vain, less proud, less selfish, less ambitious, or less avaricious than aristocracy or monarchy. It is not true, in fact, and nowhere appears in history. Those passions are the same in all men, under all forms of simple government, and when unchecked, produce the same effects of fraud, violence, and cruelty. The official narrative concerning any topic will generally favor those controlling the levers of power, by cherry-picking the facts and omitting anything which could place them in a bad light. The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. Today, Western democracies are dominated by a satanic cult. People with an active satanic disposition. What I mean by satanic are those aligned with the energetic characteristics of the planet Saturn, a planet whose metaphysical energies are synonymous with order, control, restrictions, austerity, loss, authority, and seriousness. Saturn does not make things easy. It commands us to get to work and work hard with discipline, responsibility, and limitations within a framework of Kronos's divisions of time. It is the planet of hard lessons we must learn in life, together with structure, rigidity, and rules. This modern globalization project is built upon a foundation of satanic energy, masquerading as a benevolent enterprise promising a better and brighter future. However, it is anything but. The more power given to the Satanists, the more chaos and division they will create. Unfortunately, the nature of any governing system must have elements of Saturn's influence, which are not all bad, but absolutely necessary when establishing order, discipline, and control over a country's population. However, an excess of Saturn's energy can lead to a tyrannical regime of malevolent leaders, a cult of extreme Satanists competing with one another to gain Satan's favor through mass death, child sacrifice, and the enslavement of the people. It is interesting to note that there are still other societies built upon the foundations of other planetary energies, offering an alternative perception of reality. For example, Thailand in Southeast Asia is a Buddhist nation, and because the word Buddha is Sanskrit for the planet Mercury, this nation offers a Mercurian perspective within their culture and daily life. The King of Thailand is regarded as a Dharma Raj, a ruler who adheres to the teachings of the Buddha. It is therefore no coincidence to find Thailand, or Freeland, to be one of the world's most favourite tourist destinations. Known as the Land of Smiles, the country attracts around 40 million visitors each year. Many of those coming from the satanic West become energized and overwhelmed by the Thais' alternative approach to life and the Mercurian energy that this Buddhist nation offers. Many whose natural disposition does not fit comfortably within the rigidity of the West's growing Saturnian control system find themselves liberated by Thailand's refreshingly alternative perspective on life. Countries dominated by Islam also offer an alternative to the West's satanic democracies, as Islam has its roots in Venus energy. This culture, whose holy day is on Venus Day, will often express cultural characteristics associated with this planet. Western democracies, under the control of a usurious international banking cartel and mega corporations, promote the expansion of these powerful interests throughout the world. Countries offering an alternative perception of reality to those ruling through excessive satanic energy are being targeted for regime change in an attempt to bring all the world's citizens under the yoke of a global satanic world order. And as we move further into the new age of Aquarius, we should see the ruling planet of the age, Saturn, take the helm as the overriding backdrop energy of the epoch. Because Saturn's glyph is a 180-degree inversion of Jupiter's glyph, those spiritual principles associated with Christianity and the Christ will become inverted as materialism takes precedence over spirituality. The goal of the Satanists is to push spirituality out of the picture altogether. However, humanity still has the ability to override these subtle satanic backdrop energies with will, focus, attitude, and perseverance, keeping their spiritual core connection to divine consciousness while their satanic rulers try to subjugate them. In the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine under the pretext of a healthy point of view. There will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible, directly at birth, so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of soul and spirit. To materialistic doctors will be entrusted the task of removing the soul of humanity. As today, people are vaccinated against this disease or that disease, so in the future, children will be vaccinated with a substance that can be produced precisely in such a way that people, thanks to this vaccine, will be immune to being subjected to the madness of spiritual life. He would be extremely smart, but he would not develop a conscience, and that is the true goal of some materialistic circles. With such a vaccine, you can easily make the etheric body loose in the physical body. Once the etheric body is detached, the relationship between the universe and the etheric body would become extremely unstable, and man would become an automaton, for the physical body of man must be polished on this earth by spiritual will. So the vaccine becomes a kind of Ahrimanic force. Man can no longer get rid of a given materialistic feeling. He becomes materialistic of constitution and can no longer rise to the spiritual. Each new generation are indoctrinated with an official narrative controlling their perception of reality from an early age. They are groomed to accept satanic principles of scarcity, austerity, fear, limitations, and division, promoting and perpetuating their satanic upbringing. Those who oppose these narratives, no matter how absurd, illogical, or anti-scientific, become marginalized, even removed from the debate and history altogether. My work here on the internet has also become marginalized, with YouTube making a conscious effort to render my channel obsolete. Almost half of the channels I recommended on my website 4 years ago, offering a counter-narrative, have already been terminated. Ironic, from a governing system which outwardly promotes freedom of expression along with free trade, almost the opposite of what those who voice a counter-narrative experience. Satanists are renowned for inverting the truth and dividing their competitors. It is possible to elect alternative candidates to represent our hopes and aspirations, instead of choosing between party candidates who generally have a satanic disposition, and the more ruthless they become, the higher they climb up the greasy satanic pole. At the moment, the West is infested with candidates and political representatives with a satanic disposition. If you wish to alter your social order to a more positive and optimistic future, one of goodwill and abundance, it may be worth trying to elect a Christian or Buddhist to influence the democratic process, limiting the power and reach of the Satanists. It is also worth mentioning at this point that the successor to King Charles III of England, Prince William, is considering detaching the monarch from its role as supreme governor of the Church of England. Another move by the satanic cult to further detach British society from its once spiritual roots towards a more material and satanic one. Although the satanic cult try to detach us from spiritual concepts, we as humans are made in the image of God with a divine spark of spiritual creativity, and any serious attempts to cut us off from our spiritual roots will ultimately be opposed by our inner spiritual core and disposition, a connection to truth, light, and divine consciousness. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Therefore, no matter how much the satanic-controlled mainstream media distorts the truth, many of us, as expressions of divine consciousness, with the truth written in our hearts, become suspicious of their manipulative distortions, finding many of their presentations as patronizing propaganda, as their narrative contradicts our sense of common decency and spiritual coordinates. Those in control of the official narrative will allow a certain amount of opposing views while restricting their reach, essentially shadow banning them to a point at which only those who upload the posts will see them. Throughout the Piscean age, the expansion of power by the satanic cult of the day was restricted by the expanding Christian empire, often expelling them from communities and nations for their sinister, malevolent, and divisive policies towards their hosts. However, this cult has no land. It is international in scope, infesting every nation, every city, and every town. Many politicians we see throughout the world today are just public relations agents working on behalf of this global satanic cult. While they promote and advance satanic globalist policies, they give the outward impression that they are philanthropic and benevolent stewards looking out for the interests of their countrymen. COVID-19 was a great example of satanic energy on steroids, an exercise for the globalist satanic cult which divided society into those who unquestioningly do the bidding for the cult and those who opposed them, while at the same time sacrificing many innocent people to their satanic material god of the underworld. In the days of old, the gods had the whole earth distributed among them by allotment. Now different gods had their allotments in different places, which they set in order. I have before remarked, in speaking of the allotments of the gods, that they distributed the whole earth into portions differing in extent, and made for themselves temples, and instituted sacrifices. Plato's Critias.